All right. Hello, everybody. As you guys make it into today's training, we are so excited to share about how we transformed our family, but really to tell you what we did well, what we didn't do well, and things that we might have changed a little bit so that you can take these steps and completely transform your family. And I have to say, as we get started, originally Jeff was supposed to be here and doing this beside me, but he is at work doing something. And I thought this is the perfect example. Like this couldn't have been written any better. How the two of us, right, like have a plan, it gets hijacked, and you can decide from there if you're going to abandon, jump ship, or if you're going to alter it, modify, and keep moving forward. And that was exactly what we're doing today, right? Jeff's in his
Yep.
car. Um,
Just go with the flow.
just go with the flow. And this is going to be so key for you
It's a
guys to
mindset.
take, right, with your families when you're trying to make some changes, right? Because
Mm.
it's not going to go as planned. Things are going to be hard. Things are going to like throw, and you can be like, well, we tried, and just completely give up. And so it was a perfect example. I laughed this morning when I thought about it, and I wanted to share with you guys because when you have the mindset of things aren't going to go as planned, but you can still make progress. You can still make strides. You can still do the thing. It just might look a little different than what you anticipated. You are going to actually start seeing change. It's when we get into that mindset, it didn't work out and we jump ship is why we think like, well, there it goes. Like, like we won't be able to make it work. We're just stuck here, and you stay stuck and you start it over again. You stay in that little hamster wheel of starting over, that cycle of like something comes up and you don't keep going. So I think though that is a story that Jeff and I've had with our family. Like trying to start things, it didn't go great, right? And then like we gave up or too soon. And so that's one of the things that, we'll talk about what we did wrong. There are times that we've made these steps before and just like gave up, completely give up because we just didn't think like, oh, well, this is just the way life is. And so that's the very first thing. And so a little bit, as I started with that, a little introduction for who we are. I am Stephanie. This is my husband, Jeff. We have been in the fitness industry. It's wild, but about almost 2 decades. 2 decades, right? We met at the gym. Okay. So yes, we do have the love of fitness, both of us. And it wasn't though until honestly just a few years ago that we found something like really good, strong foundations for us to do ourselves, right? But then how to implement it in our family. Okay, so yes, we love to work out. We love to, and so it feels like, well, it should be really easy for you. And it's not, like, that's not it. If you have kids, you know that the outside forces, right, of the life of like schedules, food, what they're doing as far as movement, like all of those things are so loud and feel very pressuring that oftentimes we say yes to things that we really don't want to say yes to. Right. And so that's kind of how we found ourselves. We found ourselves literally like always giving our kids Chewy bars. We've
Oh
had,
my goodness, yes.
yes, we found ourselves giving them
Cereal.
lots of cereal for sure. More screen time than we really wanted for them. We just saw us lose control, and it was when we realized that like, wait, we're the gatekeepers here. Like we're the parents. We get to decide. It really gave us a newfound like assurance of like we can do this. But I would say the very first thing why this matters, guys, is because a lot of us, maybe you're in your 30s, 40s, 50s, wherever you are in life, you realize the habits that you brought into your own adulthood from your own childhood, or like whether you develop them in your teenage years, your 20s, your 30s, right? Like they have such a huge impact on what you do right now. Your relationship with movement, your relationship with food, your relationship with sleep and work and all of those things, right? Like you've developed them over many years, but the foundation of them were built when you were a child. And that's exactly what we're taking a look at and why it's so important for you to do the hard work with your kids so that when they get older, they're not having to rebuild a healthy lifestyle. They don't have to learn something different, you know? And so Jeff and I spend our days, right, helping clients and families, couples, right, literally rebuild the relationship that they have with food, with movement, with healthy living, with sleep, with hydration, all of these things. And you realize like you are trying to change things though that you have built from a very young age. And it's hard as you get older.
Yeah. Like let's I mean, most of us grew up in like the 80s and 90s fad diets
Oh,
phase of our parents, and we just watched them do it and we're like, this is how it's done.
this is how it's done,
So
right? This is how we grew up thinking we need to eat less 100-calorie packed foods, right? And exercise more. It's why we know this. And so this is what we're trying to break. We're trying to change generations so that when they get out on their own, that they have a good solid foundation. Will they always follow it? Maybe not, right? Like maybe it won't be, but they'll know where to go and how to reset if they need to. And so you want to be that change. And I am telling you right now, we have two teenagers, we have a 9-year-old. It is
ew.
never too late. It is never
No.
too late to change. All right, to make a change. And the coolest part about actually making a change is that your kids will see that you can do it. So that when they get older, they will realize if they're in a situation where they need to make a change, they know it's possible. All right. And so just feel confident in knowing that, like, just because you haven't gotten it right up to this point doesn't mean that it will be lost on them. Okay. So, like, just like, even if your kids are much older, still, them watching their parents, even if they're out of the house, them watching their parents change will give them confidence later in life if they need to change. Right. So, this is why it matters, right? Like, this is why it matters. We're going to talk about a couple topics. We'll briefly go through just an overview of them right now and then dive right in. So we're going to talk about movement. We're going to talk about the biggest one is food, right? We know it's hard. We're going to talk about food. We're going to talk about sleep. We're going to talk about hydration. What are you drinking? What are your kids drinking? Right? We're going to talk about just connection as a family and how to literally transform your family. Okay, in a matter of months, and it's not overnight. It's not overnight. I'm going to say that right now, but it is months. But you literally could take 2025 and transform your family to look completely different. And you are going to love it. You are going to love who you guys become so that you don't want to go back to who you were, right? Like you are going to be like, this is it. Last year, at the end of 2024, Jeff and I did a goals guide, and we both said we loved 2024. 2024 wasn't void of struggles. It wasn't void of hardships. It wasn't void of teen attitudes, right? Like it wasn't void of those things. But what we saw was we transformed our family and we loved who we became. And so I want you to remember every decision that you make is a cast to who you want to be. Okay. So any decision that you and your spouse make with your kids is a vote on who you want your family to be. And so Jeff and I got serious about this. And this is where we're going to start because the very first thing that needs to happen is communication, right? Like you need to be on the same page as your spouse when it comes to your family and the changes that you want to make. And here's the
That
thing.
is so critical to
Oh,
be on the
critical.
same page.
Yes.
Because you're gonna like, if you're not on the same page, then you're just gonna like, it's gonna be heads butting heads, and kids will follow a certain parent or whatever. But you just gotta have to be on the same page.
You have to be on the same page. Yes. And the thing is you're going to have different necessarily goals that you want to do right away, right? Like you're going to be like, well, I think they should do this. I think you should do this. And then you come together, okay? And you kind of make a plan of attack, right? You can't change all the things all at once. And this is super key, right? You want radical change, but it has to be in doable doses, right? Because if you're trying to change everything, like change itself is already hard. If you're changing everything and it's forced, it's even harder. And I'm going to tell you it's not going to stick because not only is it so hard for, everyone in your family, it's hard for you to keep up with it. Like you get exhausted, right? And so we are trying to help you create a much more strategic look at this when it comes. So you and your spouse need to be on the same page, and you might not like see eye to eye on a few things. And so here's what I would say about that. Table that change for a little bit later down the road, right? So if one of you is like, I think that we should have no screen time, and the other one is like, I can't do that. Like, I can't do that. That's when my kids do this, or like, I don't want to fight, right? Maybe you can come to a compromise of like steps to get there, but you can't, if one person is not on board, it's not going to work, right? Because it's going to be one parent against the other parent. So table the things that maybe you guys don't see eye to eye on yet, or come with a lesser of a change for it and then put it into play, right? So, go ahead.
I was just say like baby steps. Like
Baby steps.
um you don't want to like have a whole list, change everything. Your kids, it's gonna be like mine, like, oh my goodness, I can't handle this. Just baby steps. Maybe it's like one thing at a time, just one thing.
Yep.
Work on one thing.
Okay, so with that one thing, right? Like the other thing I want you like to really talk about is you're going to invite your kids into this conversation as well. Like
Mhm.
first you're on the same page with your spouse, but then you're inviting your kids and whatever's appropriate for the age that they're at. Right? Like I said, we have two teenagers, so they're there, right? Like they're in a big conversation with us. There might be things that maybe we don't talk with about with our 9-year-old as much. All right, but we can talk about some heavy hitting things, right? When it comes to school, like their grades. Like we just want them to do the best that they can, but we know they're all the things that we're going to talk about affect their grades, right?
Mhm.
Whether like directly, indirectly, right? Like we know it does. And so we know that conversation. So maybe they don't care about grades and that's not a big thing. So you need to find something that does matter, right? For us, when we talked about movement with our kids, right? They're teenagers, they're trying to make their school teams, right? Specific in different sports. And so we were saying like how these things help them through those things, right? Like just even having confidence with their friends. But
Mhm.
here's the key, the big things, like the deep things that we know that they need, right? They don't care. They like that's not a selling point for them. It's not. You have to make it relatable to them, right? Like you have to make it relatable to something they want to do. And it has to be a conversation, and you're going to get some pushback. If you're expecting no pushback, then it's not going to go well and you're going to feel defeated right away. Right. Like, no, there is going to be pushback, but you're like, we're still going to implement some of these changes. Right. And some
Mhm.
of them they might not even care about. Like, you'll be shocked. Like, some of them, like, oh, okay. But the biggest thing is to make it an invitation. Make it an invitation. We're going to talk about different ways that you can involve your kids in these changes as we go through them. So, really, just, you're going to be on the same page as your spouse. You're going to figure out like kind of a plan of attack. Like, what are we doing? How are we doing this? Right. And I don't want you to necessarily have like this timeline, right? Like the
Yeah.
timeline, there's no like arrival date. Like you're always working towards better decisions. So like, don't be like, by the end of the year, we're going to have this, this, and this, and this down. Right. Just like I told you at the beginning, that Jeff not being here physically beside me was not planned, right? Like this is what's going to happen with your journey. Things are going to happen. Season's going to change. A new schedule's going to come up, right? Like things are going to change, but you're still making progress. So take a timeline off of there. And then you're also you're going to invite your kids into the conversation. And it's a conversation, okay? You are going to say, we are looking to do this. These are the things. Ask them their thoughts. Ask them, involve them, right? Get their thoughts and feelings. It will make them feel heard. Like repeat what they're saying. I know that, okay, so what you're saying is this is going to be really hard because of this, right? Repeat that. Like, and then maybe you can strategize some things that makes it seem a lot easier, right? All right, so we're going to dive into the first one, which is movement. All right. Sometimes I think this one is a little bit easier because kids typically can like to move around, right? But here is what I would say. It is really easy to give them a screen, to let them play, right? So whether it's a phone, an iPad, a TV, video games, these are all things that we're faced with, but we know that they spend plenty of time on screens at school, right? They're looking at a computer, they're looking at a board, like, they are constantly seeing screens. And so what can we do to help them? Once they get to middle school, high school, we lose recess. We lose recess. Why does this matter? Because this actually like helps their brains develop. This is how they can focus, right? And so it's the same idea, like taking away movement when your kids get in trouble, like everyone loses. Everyone loses. And so that doesn't change. For you possibly, if you have a job where, like, well, anyone really, like when you work out mentally, like your thinking is better, right? You can be more efficient, like all of these things. Well, it doesn't change with kids, right? So, like to help them see that movement is something that really actually affects every part of their life, and so the quickest way to help, even if your kid is not athletic, the quickest way to up their movement and do it as a way that they see that could be enjoyable, all right, is to go just ask them like, let's play a game. Like you have little kids, play tag outside, right? You have bigger kids, maybe it is like a basketball, maybe it is kicking around a soccer game, maybe it's spike ball, like, badminton, pickleball. That's like, an awesome thing. Maybe it's literally a dance party in the kitchen. Like turn on some music, have a good time, get them moving. But one of the most rewarding ways to up movement for everyone in the house, and it has so many benefits, is a walk after dinner. Or,
That's what I was gonna say. Because
yeah,
like if you have kids that aren't into dance, aren't into sports, and it's a great conversation. Like you're there with your kids for what, half hour, 20 minutes, just walking.
it's amazing. It's amazing the conversations you have. And this is actually really crucial too if you're raising boys. Boys, I mean, studies have shown like direct eye contact is really hard, even in adults, right? Like to have direct eye contact and have a serious conversation, a deep conversation, more happens when you're shoulder to shoulder than you are just looking at each other. So, that is something that I do not take lightly. It's something Jeff and I talk about often, the conversations we have in the car. And I know that's not
Mm-hmm.
movement, but just that idea that reinforces that the conversations that you have when your kids are beside you. So again, if it's out for a walk, which is super awesome, if you can go out for a 20-minute walk after you finish dinner, there are a lot of health benefits to that. Adults, kids, all of it, right? And we've seen children's obesity, children's diabetes, like type 2, is like the rise is just so crazy. I've been reading stats about like over half of the US kids are pre-diabetic. Like we need to stop that, right? And so getting it in there, get them into the idea of walking, right? Just going for a walk. They pick up sticks. They, like it's just amazing what they get. And there's no like end game other than just movement, right? It's not like, oh, we gotta like, no, like just enjoy. It doesn't have to be fast paced. It's just movement, And so I wanted to share something about our screen policy, our video game policy. So they really like it. Is our kids, they want to play video games. They love them. They do. Um, they have to do 30 minutes of reading and then 30 minutes of physical activity if they want to play video games. And like that's only for a certain period of video games. That's not unlimited. So then like continue to have to go back and forth. And it has really helped them. Like they'll play, they'll read, they'll be physically active, and then they'll go ahead and they'll go play and get that screen time that they are looking for. So it's not like there's a cut all things out, but it has been a good compromise for us.
And we also limit video games to weekends.
We do.
Like not school time, not school days. But yeah, that's a big one with their friend. I know their friends are on. I
You
mean,
have to
sometimes
be,
during the week, but yeah,
and this is going to be too, like Jeff and I are, we have to be confident in our decision to be different, right? Like you have to be okay that you are not parenting the same way that your kids' friends' parents do, right?
yeah.
Yeah, our kids' friends, and we're not judging the other parents. They say like, yeah, they can have it after school on video games, or they don't have to do these things. And guys, you have to be confident in who you are and the decisions that you're making so that so that like you can stand firm on that and be like, I know, it's just that's not what we're doing. I do
Yeah.
want to say one other thing. Jeff and I do work out, right? And so one of the best things that we can do is invite our kids to work out with us, right? If your kids already are working out doing something, ask to join, right? They're going to see that. Like they're going to feel it like that's important to them, right? But we just invite our kids to work out. Sometimes
Hmm.
they say no. Sometimes we nudge them a little bit. I'm not like, but like, like, no, like you can do it. Like, see, at least get started with us, right? They don't always finish with us. They might do extra. It's amazing the transformation, but when you invite your kids, like just how amazing those conversations and relationships are. I want to show with you guys. Let's see if I can do this. Because this was so cute. Over the summer, I told you, Jeff and I, like Um, we were transforming our own family, and what that looked like. And I want to show you, let's see how I can figure out how I can do this. What we do, like, and we record it. My goodness, share desktop. Yes. All right. Oh, it's not letting me share my screen.
I don't see it.
Oh, what a bummer. Well, if I could share my screen, I don't know why it's not allowing me. It would be pictures. We take a selfie, right? And so some of the selfies are of Jeff and I. Some of them, like a sweaty selfie afterwards, of our all three of our kids and us. Some of them are whatever kids were home. So it was like all the different combos. We got
Yeah.
Eli and Lincoln. We got, like Eli and Henry, Henry and Lincoln. We got just one of each if they were busy, right? And so the best thing though, as I was going to show you, is some of them included our kids' friends
Yes.
because they were over and they're like, oh,
Yep.
I'll work out with you. Instead of our kids stopping, they joined in. Right. And so sometimes they didn't like, but I thought it was cool to see when I looked through the photos of this summer. And that's something really fun that you guys can do and start building, right? Like, oh, let's get our sweaty selfie, but like see who was there and look at it. And it's fun and they get used to it. They love it. They want to start taking their own little sweaty selfies, with their iPad or whatever. But like, it is something that like is such a fun memory looking back and seeing all the different things. But the key there was you were consistent. You still showed up. You showed up with whoever was home, right? And so that's what we did over the summer. And so that's what you can do on the weekends. I know your kids have different schedules, but like invite them, just the invitation, and don't stop inviting them. Even if they say no, do not stop inviting them. Okay. We need
I'll
to,
also say, like with workouts, if you're inviting your kids, just expect it to be a little longer than your normal, because you'll have
oh, yeah.
to police their lifting and maybe help them with lifts or whatever, or show them what to do. But yeah, just don't have a time schedule.
And don't like fret when they like skip sets and they do something out. Like,
Yeah.
don't
Yes,
like
don't.
let them come and go. Like, don't be like, well, you need to make up this. No, like just let them come and go and get used to it. And just even coming to this space is special. All right, so we need to move on because we want to dive into food. And I know food is a big struggle for a lot of families. It was a big struggle for us. It still can be a struggle sometimes. Like, don't think that we're perfect, but we have made so many strides when it comes to making better, healthier decisions for us as parents, for us as a family, for kids. And so, really understanding, like, knowing that the most common dinners, foods that you're serving your kids, your family, are high in fat, high in carbs, low in protein. Like they just naturally are. And every processed food, guys, is designed to make you want to eat more. All right.
Mhm.
It's been stripped of the fiber, so it doesn't actually fill you up, right? Like you don't get full from potato chips. But if you were to actually eat potatoes, you would be a lot more full, right? Like actual the a potato, you'd be a lot more full faster, right? Because it has the fiber with it. So, knowing these things and knowing like, okay, like where do you start? Well, this is again, where's your plan of attack? When you discuss with your spouse, or if there's anyone else in your household who's an adult who's responsible, like where do you start? Well, I'd start either with dinner or snacks, right? Like how and when I say that, I mean like we're making small changes, small changes, small changes over time. We're not saying you've completely like there's not a chip to be found, there's not a chewy bar to be found, there's not goldfish to be found. I'm not saying that. I'm saying small swaps or even just removing, but also adding maybe like an alternative, okay, to what they could be doing. My best tip for you guys though is have fruit and vegetables available when you can, right? Like on a plate in the dining room, right? Like just have them cut up, available. Maybe you have them already prepped in the fridge so you can pull it together. This is going to be key for snacks, all right? Because you will be shocked at how many times people like walk by and just start eating food, right? And it's just such a great way to slowly change their taste buds, right? And that's exactly what we're doing here. We're changing taste buds. We're changing their preference, and this is key too when they have friends over, right? So still like, no, like when they have friends over, like just like, what does that look like? You're going to have food. You're going to need to have options, right? And so just having that. Add protein to your meals. If you're going to dive in for dinner, add protein. So your kids love mac and cheese. Okay. Make mac and cheese the side and then have a good hearty protein to go with it. So that's what you start doing. You start changing the portion sizes of what you're adding, right? Or like what you're serving. So they have a little bit less of the food that maybe is not the best decision and a little bit more of what is a better decision. You know, and here, Jeff and I talked about this too before we started about how often like you don't give up. They don't like the food. Prepare it a different way, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like they don't like roasted broccoli. We have one who doesn't like roasted broccoli, but he'll eat steamed broccoli. He'll eat raw broccoli. So just try different things, have different things available, right? I also, there was other picture I had yesterday. I shared a photo 2 days ago. I shared a photo of Lincoln with me at the grocery store. And we were talking about how like we use that. We take them to the grocery store, we use that. And I will tell you that the number one thing people ask me is like, but did he get the Milanos? I didn't even see that in the photo. He's holding like a bag of Milano cookies, which are delicious, right? But I actually let him try something new at the grocery store. And we do this. We don't like, we're just like, not no, 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 no. We don't want to be just no parents, right? But he ended up deciding that he wanted these rasper oranges and has been obsessed with them this week, and try it. And like, if he didn't like them, I didn't think, like, yeah, it was a few dollars, but like he was willing to try a new thing. So when you're in the produce section or a meat section, like let them try something new. Let them try new things, right? And don't and then again, don't forget to change the way you're preparing foods so they keep trying them.
Yeah, I will say like Lincoln, our youngest, has like a texture issue. So it's good to involve him in either one, picking out food that he might try at the grocery store, and also he helps prepare food. So it like gets his mind like, hey, I'm going to try this when we serve it. So, I mean, it helps with him.
Yeah. And the other thing, like the last thing I add is involve your kids in meal planning. Like
Hmm.
involve them. I asked my kids to tell me 3 meals each that they enjoyed. And so when I meal plan, I do it for 2 weeks at this point, but like when I meal plan, I try to make one meal a week, something they like, something they like. It might not be their favorite meal, but this is like, what do you want? And how can we make that? Let them help you in the kitchen. Like number one, yes, let them help you in the kitchen. It takes so much longer, but let them help.
Hmm.
The dinner Lincoln made us last night, it was shrimp Creole. I can tell you, if I would have made that and put it on the table, he would not have touched it.
Oh no, he would probably run out of the room.
But he found it in a cookbook. All right. One of the things too is like maybe you do let your kids watch some cooking TV, right? Like Lincoln is all about the cooking shows right now. and he's curious, right? And like, and then it gets the other kids talking about it. All right, make it a family affair. All right, we're going to do sleep real fast. We're going to do hydration real fast because these are really important. Sleep, everything when it comes to sleep, guys, does matter. What we tell our kids all the time is like, you grow when you sleep. Your kids want to get taller. They want to get taller. They grow when they sleep. Sleep and recovery is so important for them. But the best way for your kids to have better sleep habits is for you to have better sleep habits. If they see you up late at night on your phone, scrolling, got like watching movies all the time, like I am telling you, that's just what they're going to think is normal. Okay. You
Hmm.
need to change to implement the change for your kids.
Yeah, and we've like slowly implemented that with us. Like we still like stay up after the kids go to bed, but sometimes we go to bed at whenever like if you go to bed at 9, like if we've gone to bed at 9. But yeah.
All right. And so I mean, just being consistent, having a bedtime on the weekends actually is important. There's no reason you need to treat, the weekend that differently. It's okay. Like there are sometimes you stay up a little later, but like treat the weekend too, guys, as it's still like there is a bedtime. All right. When you don't, like it creates them exhausted for the rest of the week.
Hmm.
Hydration, as both in you can see me drinking something. I always have something. Here's the thing: there's so many empty calories in and so much caffeine in your kids' drinks that it's not needed. Like I mean, there's no good way to say it other than this is something you got to get a hold of, right? Like this is something that, the amount of sugar that is in drinks is absurd. Okay.
Insane.
Insane. And so finding alternatives is so important. Get them used to water. They don't like water. You start with little things. Yes, there are things like prime packets. What if you like, hey, here's a prime packet, like use it all throughout the day. Like use a little bit every time you fill up your water bottle, right? Like I know they have those. Kids like body armor. I get that. And it's expensive. Like even soda is expensive, right? And so we have a water bottle cart in our kitchen. Everyone keeps their water bottles there. Like we really talk a lot about water and staying hydrated, but just watch the drinks. Watch the drinks. Like make it something special when they're getting something other than water or like, milk or something like that.
I will say like it takes like if you start implementing water, I mean, again, changing taste buds. It'll take several weeks, but like your body craves what you feed it. So just keep that in mind.
And as we wrap up, guys, like we have more that we love to talk about, but we're going to continue this conversation. I want you to know that like we're gonna send out a list of like some of our favorite electrolyte drinks that you can have with your kids. So if they hate water, you can change it up, right? Like we're gonna give you some ideas. We're gonna give you some snack ideas to help with your kids. Like what are some swaps you can make? What are swaps you can make for your kids, but for you as well, right? Like the thing that we're gonna say here is the first thing that you need to do to change your family is to change yourself, right?
Mhm.
You have to be living it out before they're even sold on this, right? There are some things that maybe you can do together, but you need to be taking ownership and be like I said, like living it out when it comes to sleep, like sleeping patterns. And it's gonna be hard. You're gonna have attitudes back to you. You're gonna have kids who don't understand why you're changing, right? But we are often helping our children with boundaries that they don't understand right now, right? And this is just another one. And so this is where like you you pull up your pants and you be the parent, right? You do because you are going to be with the school parties, the team lunches, like or party, like they're always having pizza, they're always having that. And yeah, it's a bummer that we're not the ones who always get to treat our kids, that ever the rest of the world is treating our kids. But I'm going to tell you, you're going to see such a difference in your kids over the time. Not only are they going to transform, obviously, like just with their ideas and they're thinking it through, like of like, oh, I shouldn't have this, but you're gonna see their confidence soar. All right. You're gonna like movement, it's wild how that builds confidence in kids. All right. Like just them doing it. You're going to see like just better focus. You're going to see better focus with a better diet, with movement, with water, right? There's so many things that happen to us physically when we're not taking care of our bodies. Our kids don't know any better, right? And so we're here to help them. Whew, guys, we're so thankful that you made it with us through these these last few minutes, right? And I know, like we said, we have so much to share. And we would love to have you work with us. And if you're not already working with us, reach out, but we're going to send you a few things. And be on the lookout for that with the replay as well. We hope you guys have a great day, and we will talk to you later.
Yeah.